Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with another stacked lineup on the show tonight. We've got Sam, the VP of the Ollie Watkins fan club. We've got Kev, and we have our extra special guest, Josh from Aston Villa from the stands. Make sure you smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 6,000 subscribers, and get your comments in. We're obviously going to preview Saturday's huge game, win or bust, against Bournemouth. And we'll get lineups predicted, we'll get score lines predicted, and we'll talk everything in between. First of all, Josh, great to have you on, mate. How are you doing?
Yes, all good, mate. Thanks for having me. As I said, backstage, I was hoping to see some Spurs tears tonight, some absolute misery, and a bit of an FU to the Premier League to try and rearrange a fixture with a team not officially confirmed in a final. But it wasn't to be.
No.
But yeah, I guess it's one of those weird ends of the season. I always find that I tend to be someone who concentrates on Villa for most of the season. And then it comes to May, and all of a sudden my head's gone, and I'm literally watching every other team and frantic about them. So I almost forget that Villa are playing on Saturday. You know, it's like Saturday's just around the corner, so it's one of them. But yeah, no, and appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to this one.
Good man, good man. Well, great to have you on as well. We've also got playoffs happening tonight as well. Playoffs to get into the Premier League, and Sheffield United currently 2-0 up against Bristol City. Sunderland against Coventry tomorrow. So yeah, that's all going ahead as well, as you say, Josh. All happening. Sam, great to have you back on the pod. It's been a while, mate. How are you doing? And Josh makes a point about Manchester United and Tottenham being in the Europa League final. Looks pretty well. Certain, to be fair. What do you make of that? Do you think that'll go in Villa's favour?
Hello, everyone. It has been a while. Yeah, I mean, is it just me, or did we have a harder run in the Conference League last year than Spurs?
Mate, it's ridiculous. The teams in the Europa League and in this Conference League this season is crazy. What we faced last season. We had AZ Alkmaar in our group, and then we ended up with Ajax in like the last 16, and Lille in the quarterfinals, who got quite far in the Champions League, much like us this year. So it's the standard.
And then Bianca sent us back to Lascelles. No questions asked. Yeah, I mean, I find it quite funny because a lot of my mates are Spurs fans, and I was trying to give them a bit of banter today. And I actually had to look up the name of the team they were playing. And what I found funny was, firstly, they're the first team that I've ever seen with a forward slash in their name. And also, they couldn't decide on one name. So apparently they've got two, Bodo and Glimt. Yeah, it's a strange one. I mean, if I'm being honest, they're both going to get to the final now, which is clear. 20 minutes away, both of them. This might kind of go against like the general thinking of not sort of prioritizing the big teams or whatever. But I think I'll be happy as long as Spurs don't win it. I don't mind Man United winning it and being in the Champions League, because that's fine. I just don't want Spurs to win anything, because that's quite funny that they've won a League Cup in the last 70 years. So yeah, I mean, in terms of for us, will it be beneficial? I guess the league is done for them. All the teams are relegated, and they're probably going to be focusing on the final. But I was saying to a friend the other day, we seem to have 4 bogey teams, which is more than almost anyone else. But Newcastle away, Palace anywhere in any stadium apparently, Spurs and Man United, and those being the last 2 games of the season, we could really do with them taking their eye off the ball and focusing on that final. Although Spurs fans will be Spurs fans will be elated if they win it. Man United fans probably won't care that much, but I don't know. I'm hoping they take their eye off the ball. But if I'm being honest, their ride to the final has been a bit of a joke. And is there a way that both teams can lose the final? Is that possible?
Unfortunately not. But I mean, Kev, good to see you tonight again, mate.
Hello, mate.
Previewing this huge game on Saturday, because if you talk about the Tottenham game, potentially them resting players ahead of and then playing Manchester United after that final, whether they'd be partying, whether they'd be commiserating themselves. But we've got to get past Bournemouth on Saturday, and this one is. I mean, Sam talks about 4 bogey sides we've got, but Bournemouth away hasn't been a happy hunting ground for us either.
No, you're right, mate. It's easy to talk, isn't it, as we were on the fans forum in the midweek, and my kind of view was very much, wow, who are these Spurs, who are these Premier League, they've got to go to Bodo Glimt, or that Bodo Glimt have got to go to them, and I would love it, and all that kind of stuff. But then I'm thinking, actually, it suits us if they do get to the final because they're more likely to have their eye off the ball. So, actually, then I thought about it. I thought I wanted them to win. But then, actually, the hardest of the games, if Man United and Spurs look like they're getting to the final, I know the record isn't great against them, but you'd think they'd both have bigger fish to fry than putting their all into, a game against Villa at the end of the season. Resting players psychologically might just be focused on not going all in on a tackle because you don't want to get injured for a bit of silverware, particularly with how bad their seasons have been. And let's not beat around the bush, right? With how the rest of the Premier League is kicked on, I think it'll be a real surprise if either of those teams finish top 7 next year, because there's so many of the teams ahead of them. So this could be that your one shot if you're a Mason Mount or a James Maddison, although he might be injured. But you get my point, like to win something. So the hardest one of all 3 for me was always going to be Bournemouth. It was always going to be Bournemouth, and they're a really good side. I saw some stats today about, I think they've beaten more of the teams above them in the league than anyone else this season. They've got some proper players, and when they're on it, Kluivert, Semenyo, Utara, Evan Nilsson, they've got some really good players, some great defenders. They're just a good team, and this is going to be a real sense of where Aston Villa lie now, because we've had a decent run since Christmas. I mean, it's such a shame we had those 2 poor results, particularly with the magnitude of what it meant for the Champions League race, and of course winning a trophy back to back. To respond with a win against Fulham is brilliant. It's crazy, isn't it? This is now the most important game of the season. This is more important than Bayern Munich. It's more important than PSG because of what it means right now. And I'm backing the boys, but you know what? It's going to be a real challenging one. Bournemouth haven't got a huge amount to play for. That might be our one saving grace potentially, but they're
playing for 8th, aren't they? They're playing for 8th, so that's the.
Are they though? Because if they beat us, then they're 6 points away.
I think they're 4 points behind to beat us, and I think they'd have to. I think we'd have to lose all our games, but there's still an outside chance they could. But really, I mean, look, they're professionals, aren't they? Going to go for it.
Yeah, if they beat us, they're 4 points away, and unsurprisingly, they've got a better goal difference as well. So, you never know.
Yes. I mean, Josh, can you think of? I've called it win or bust, and it is literally that. And could you think of many tougher places to go than Bournemouth, the Vitality Stadium?
The tough one for me, because when I think about it, our record completely stinks against them. Our last 3, we haven't had a win. We've had some horror shows, injuries. Ironically, as you probably can mention about Tielemans, ironically being injured just before. Somehow every time we go to their ground, there's an injury there or an injury before, a big one as well. But we're Aston Villa Football Club, and we're talking about here trying to qualify for the Champions League. It's a bit like the Crystal Palace FA Cup semi-final conversation about Palace being a bogey team. If you want to be in the Champions League next season, we can't be sweating over beating Bournemouth. We have to go and beat, and this is no disrespect to Bournemouth, because I respect everything that they're doing in terms of Areola and what they're building and how well they've achieved. But if we are all serious and as fans that we want to be playing Champions League football, this has to be we have to learn from Crystal Palace. We have to learn from this and just do the business and not fear them. And I don't like the idea again of in this bogey side or we don't win at Bournemouth and that, because it just bites us in the ass. So look, let's get this crappy. And look, I don't know if you guys saw Matty Cash's. I've been absolutely raging about Matty Cash recently. Some people haven't taken the comments as bad as others. Some people have said he's right. I was really annoyed. The one thing I took out of Matty Cash's sort of comments were that there was a lack of winning mentality. There was a lack of, making excuses. There cannot be an excuse, Rich, this weekend. It has to be, as you said, win or bust. If we don't win, for me, it's regardless. No other game matters from there on in about what other teams do. It's bust. And no Villa fan here, and you guys will want the season to die on Saturday, right? We've got this dream of it going to the end. So let's make it happen. And yeah, so not disrespecting Bournemouth, because I don't want it to be, that's not just like we respected Crystal Palace. But come on now.
Too much.
Yeah. Is that, and please don't tell me that we're going to do the same again against bloody, Bournemouth. That would be a horror show for us. So that's how I feel about that, if I'm honest, mate.
Yeah. Fighting talk, Josh. Michael says no excuses on Saturday, and Sam nodding your head quite vigorously there. I think the Matty Cash comments might be striking a chord, but it is, isn't it? Like, if you want to have aspirations to qualify for the Champions League, you've got to go into these games with the squad that we've got, albeit we'll talk about injury in a second, but you got to be going into this game like no mercy. Go and win the game.
Yeah, I must be doing that unconsciously, or whilst I do agree with you, Josh, I wasn't. I actually didn't read the Matty Cash. I saw that the headline was Matty Cash says sometimes it feels like Villa fans are against us, and I just said, "Shut up, man!" I didn't bother reading it because what is he talking about?
Well, exactly, especially as a semi-final of an FA Cup, and you're going, "Oh well, 1 week we beat Newcastle, and then we have a couple of bad results." The bad result was a semi-final of an FA Cup that you had the opportunity to get to a final that we haven't been in since. We haven't won since 1957. Like, come on, mate.
Yeah, I think 1957 may be too many numbers for Cash, if I'm being honest. So I don't want to confuse it. But I think it's a weird one, this win or bust thing, because I know Chelsea and Forest are playing each other. I think if Liverpool had beaten Chelsea last week, I'd have been sort of a bit more up for the fight. I think the issue is I don't see the teams around us losing too much. I almost feel as though we've got a free hit now. Like, if you look at the percentages of, who's expected to get into the Champions League next year, I think the top 5 are all sort of 70, 80% plus, and we're on like 19%, because there's only 3 games left. And the other thing is, it's not in our hands as well. We can go and we can win all of our games, but like, what is the likelihood of everyone else losing their games? And it's,
I think it's just because a couple of teams have to play each other, don't they?
Yeah, I think, Chelsea have got Forest and Newcastle playing.
Chelsea got Newcastle this weekend, and Chelsea play Forest as well. And Newcastle play Arsenal away, but obviously Arsenal are,
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Arsenal might be more up for it than ever, because they are the talk of the town at the moment for their very Arsenal-esque result and performance against PSG. It's. I think it's a strange one. Rich, you were at the FA Cup semi-final. You were commenting pretty vigorously at the time about the atmosphere or lack thereof in the stadium from the Villa fans, and obviously that's not great. But I've been to so many games this season, especially the European nights. I've never heard Villa Park like that. So, Matty Cash saying he feels, even when we were down 2-0 down against PSG or in the home leg again at Villa Park, I've never heard it.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, I'm not taking those comments with any. I think it is a bit of excuse making, as Josh said, and that could be that could be the concern. Is are we fading away? But the last thing I'll say on that is we talk about the squad and the injuries and stuff like that. The last few months, we've been saying the biggest reason why we've been so successful over that period of time is because of our squad depth. And look how many options we've got. Look at what we've got in midfield. Look at, we've still got Onana sitting on the bench. We've still got Barkley sitting on the bench. We've still got, all of these players. You've got Marlon sitting on the bench. You've got Leon Bailey there. Fine. Rashford and Tielemans are out for the rest of the season too. Rashford been brilliant since he joined. Fair play to him. Tielemans, for me, our best player this season. Just absolutely sensational in almost every game he's played, and he's played about 70 of them as well, which is impressive. I think the actual number is 52, which is the most for Villa in a single season in 60, 70 years or something like that. Don't know where I pulled that stat from, but I think it's half true at least. And yeah, so we've got to utilise that squad depth. We've got to go against Bournemouth, try and get a positive result. Hope Newcastle smash Chelsea. Hope Forest smash Chelsea next week, and it'd be really nice to see Villa and Forest in that spots. But I think regardless, even if it's Europa League or whatever, I don't think it's win or bust. I think it's win or it's still been one of the best seasons ever, and that's not me being a defeatist. It's still me sort of accept it or lowering my standards. But if at the start of the season someone said FA Cup semi-final, Champions League quarter-final, finishing top 8, taking it down to we're as close to Arsenal as we are to Bournemouth, by the way, in terms of points. So, is it bust? Is the season a failure? I don't think it is.
Yeah, I think you made a fair point. It'd be disappointing, but I don't think you can call it a failure as such. But it's just when the stakes get so high. Villa 946 says, forget the history versus Bournemouth. The time is now. Kev, Carpe Diem, seize the day, as you always like to say. But how big of a blow is Yuri Tielemans?
Tielemans is shit, mate. Don't worry about it. Move on. Jokes. He's been our best podcast. He's been our best player this season, irrefutably. And we've spoken about this on a few pods in the past. By the way, for those that don't realise, I'll say everybody's shit. And anytime anything happens, I'll say they're shit. That's how my brain
getting clipped up.
Yeah. Oh my god, I look forward to all of the TikTok people saying, "Who's this dickhead Villa fan?" I've had that a few times, and I'll have it again.
Sing another song.
Yeah. I'll come on. What about Tielemans' injury? Shall I? He was flogged to death, so his hamstring went. No, I do that one. Look, the way he's impacted this team after the slow start he had last season. Luis going, we wondered how it would affect the club, and we haven't missed him at all. I don't think one bit. That says all you need to know, because I thought Luis was particularly first half of last season was a standout player in the team. So, it says a hell of a lot about the impact he's had. However, we've got this squad. We talked about it. Someone else mentioned it earlier, and if it's there, and you've got the players like Barkley, like Onana, like Marco Asensio, other players in that midfield area. If they can't step up, if you can't rejig it, maybe put some McGinn there. There's all sorts of options, right? You can't in one breath say what a great squad you've got, and the next breath not think that you can cope with an injury, albeit to a key player. But I think we should be able to cope with it. And, we've been lucky to keep ourselves as injury-free as we did for so long. And, I think we have to be pretty thankful of that. But we've had times recently in weeks, we've played games where players like Torres and Bailey, I think, were left out of a matchday squad because we had too many players available. I mean, they're players that would start for most teams. So, look, we've got to cope with it. And in the words of Maloko, the time is definitely now. And these players have got a bit of fight amongst them. Just quickly on the Cash comments, I get the annoyance, but I took it with a bit more of a, they've done so well the last 3 months, 4 months. But you can lose a football match. I know it's disappointing. I was devastated. I watched it in the pub in Sheffield after watching, watching the snooker for the first time live, and it was about as enjoyable as as the worst Villa match I've ever watched. It was about as enjoyable as the FA Cup final I went to against Arsenal and all the other crap ones, because the expectation this time was so high, it actually probably felt even worse. But you can lose a football match, can't you? It can happen, and I just think it's really easy to throw the baby out with the bathwater with some of this stuff. It's a huge missed opportunity. I'm all about taking opportunities in life. As you know, I wax lyrical about what Greece did, what Denmark did, what Leicester did. You know, these situations when you take those opportunities, and Villa generally keep missing these opportunities when we've had big games in recent years, other than the player final against Derby. So this is our next mini opportunity, isn't it? You know, after, you know, we've had a bit of a struggle. It looks like it's going to go away. It's 90% predictions, whatever the probability is. From the jaws of defeat, snatch victory in terms of repetitive season, Champions League qualification, what that would do for this club in terms of the revenues. Yeah, revenue, right? But it's important. The player profile we could bring in, the standing of the club, everything. I think it could set us up for the next 5-10 years. So it's all or nothing, really. It really is.
Yeah. I think, look, well, just to find a little bit on Matty Cash, I can see where Josh's coming from, definitely, and I can see where you're coming from. I think maybe timing. I think qualify for the Champions League first, and then say, you didn't need to lose your heads, you didn't need to kind of panic. But we haven't done anything yet. Like we could, we could throw it away on Saturday and do a terrible performance, and then he's kind of left with egg on his face again. So that's
do you know what I get annoyed about? It's where I keep hearing now players keep saying, "Well, look where we were 3 years ago." That doesn't win you anything. I don't want to hear about Rotherham away anymore in the Championship. Let's be honest, we're past that era, and this is where I keep saying we have to start acting on the pitches just as well, like an elite club, and talking about where we were in the past. We sound like Arsenal, we sound like Spurs. You know, we sound like we're trying to claw onto things that we just don't need to do. And that's probably, as you said, it was the time, it was awful. But he's basically saying you can't have a pop at us for losing this big game because look where we were 3 years ago and look how far we've come. Yes, we all know we've gone on a brilliant journey, but as a fan, personally, I'm not here sitting around looking at progression now. I'm looking at here, win me something and you've given me the creme de la creme. You've given me the Porsche Ferrari. I don't want to be driving a Nissan or, you know, something like that. No offense to anyone who's got a Nissan. But my point is, going back down to a conference league, going back down to a conference league is going to feel like that. You are that. And so they've given us the best life. So, you know, that's where I'm at. That's how I feel with Cash. It really, as you said, Rich, it was the timing was just like Ollie Watkins. He's spoken at the wrong time as well for me, Watkins. You know, with Rashford getting injured, just hold your tongue sometimes and speak at the end, which I think someone like Tyrone Mings potentially might do at the end of the season, which is wait to see what things happen. And they might just say, do you know what? I wanted to be part of it more. I might have to get, you know what? That's what I feel like someone classy like Tyrone Mings might do, which would be interesting.
Yeah.
No.
Pajas agrees with exactly time to win something now. James says, you don't want to be driving a Seat Leon, Josh. And Nick says, you sound like a spoilt wife. I don't know about that. I'm not sure about that. Guys, make sure you do hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. We've got nearly 200 of you in the chat on both on X and on YouTube. So please do hit the like button. It's totally free. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel and keep your comments flowing in. Let's talk a bit about Bournemouth, Sam. Actually, I just want to shout out Adamski first. Good to see a Villa podcaster Marvel team up the Villa with a 10 Australian dollars super chat. Thank you so much, Adamski. You're an absolute legend, mate. Absolute legend. So Bournemouth, I don't know if I think it was you or Kev mentioned about some of their players that they've got, danger players, Cliver, Semenyo, Evan Nielsen. You know, they're quite scary proposition going forwards. You know, Kirkes on that left-hand side as well. So many good players and so many dangerous players. It's hard to sort of say which one you have to try and stop because it's almost like the red arrows when they're going at you.
Yeah, no, I was in my Nissan Micra the other day thinking about it, and I was just bemoaning the fact I wasn't in a Porsche, for being honest.
As Cliver drove past you in his red Ferrari.
I was thinking, damn, that was me 3 weeks ago when we played PSG. No, we're definitely going to drop this at some point, Josh. It won't be around. Yeah, I mean, look, everyone's a good team. Everyone's got a good team in the Premier League now. Like, honestly, I look at some of these, even just like watching Fulham and you see some of the players. They even made like, I feel like everyone's just stepped the game up a little bit, and it's quite ironic actually because the conversation has been that the Premier League isn't as strong this season as it has been in the past. And I kind of disagree. I think it's the opposite. I think it's stronger. I think that the talent is more evenly distributed across the league, which is why you've seen a lower points total. Everyone seems to be a little bit stronger. There are no sort of foregone conclusions anymore. And, it really is anyone. It's more like the Championship where really anyone can beat anyone. And I feel like it's getting a lot of, like, the Premier League this season has gotten a lot of negativity in the press. And a big reason for that is because people don't like that kind of competition. They don't
they don't, and they don't like to see Man United and Tottenham where they are. Battled. Yeah, well, because the pundits actually have to do some research about other teams that are actually better than them.
Nah, it's fine. We'll just keep watching Man United in 17.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But yeah, Bournemouth are a team who have impressed. They lost Dominic Solanke, and you thought, hold on a second, he's a massive player for them, really good, and they've done really well. I think you've seen other players come alive, like I was about to say Patrick Kluivert, then I'm going to throw it back. Justin Kluivert has obviously been really good. Semenyo, Tavernier, Howson, who's obviously very highly rated. Like, they're just good from back to front. I think that they're not a team of individual stars. They're a collective, and I think we're kind of seeing that with Villa this season, with the talent pool and the goals being more evenly distributed. And a really good example of that is PSG. They got rid of all their superstars, and Messi, Neymar, Mbappe trio is gone, and they look more dangerous than ever because they play as more of a collective. There's no top dog. They're kind of all swimming or rowing in the same direction at least. So it's I think it's I think Bournemouth are a really good side. They're not to be sniffed at, and I know Josh paid them a lot of credit, but Bournemouth away is not the fixture it used to be, whether they've got a stadium of 60 people or not. Like, it's a tough place to go and get a result, and I think if we do that, it's a massive statement of intent and precedence for the rest of the season. And I think you've got to give Bournemouth credit this season. They've been super impressive, but on paper, you say we're by far the better team, and I think it's just, for me, it all comes down to personnel on Saturday. Who's he going to play? Whose head is in the game? For me, I don't want to see Torres even on the bench. Just let him sit the rest of the season out, recoup. He's gone from bad to worse in the last few games for me. Watkins, now that there's no Rashford, unless you stick Marlon up top, which you won't do because you're basically saying to Ollie Watkins, I don't trust you.
Yeah.
Top.
Well, but Watkins has got to show something. He's got to show something.
I mean, you think eventually he will. I mean, I'm still waiting, but he's you'd think that he would, because he always talks big, Ollie Watkins. He'll score a goal and then he'll come out and give it lemon and be like, "Oh, I was fuming not to play that PSG game," and then he'll start against Palace and not touch the ball for 90 minutes. So, I think it's a tough game. I think it all comes down to how Unai sets up. I think respecting them too much is not really going to work in our favour. If we try and hold it at the back too much, we need to be quick and dynamic like we were against PSG on that transition, break forward, utilise our pace. I'd really like to see Jacob Ramsey start. I think he's looked really good every time he's come on. Asensio's not been inspiring me recently. He had such an amazing start, and obviously it's hard to keep that up, almost impossible to keep that up. But I think his levels have dropped a little bit lower than where everyone else. It's not just the lack of goals. I think it's like the overall contribution, losing the ball a lot. So I'm sure we'll get into the team in a little bit, but I think it's all down to personnel and the way Unai assesses their strengths and how we're going to counteract them, or are we just going to dominate and just play to our strengths?
Yeah. Sai AVFC says Semenyo versus Cash worries the hell out of him. The final boss says Semenyo has something for you. Kevin agrees with you, Sam. No Torres for him. Lewis saying Watkins is gone in the summer. Duncan said he'd start Marlon, unlucky in the Fulham match off the crossbar. James says the only ones that still trust Watkins are Josh and Emery. We'll keep pinning that. Pajos says if he gets the record, he leaves in the summer. American Villain says if he doesn't get it from here, he'll be gone. And a lot of people still talking about James is there as well. While Ollie still at the club, he gets my support. Back the lads in claret and blue. Up the effing Villa. Kev, just a quick one on Bournemouth. As impressive as they are, what I do find with them is they press, almost like that sort of old Leeds team, a few years back under Bielsa. Yeah, press. But I kind of find after if you can stay in it within like 60, 65 minutes, I feel like they run out of gas, and then their subs aren't quite at the level that the first 11 is. Like they might have one sub that comes on is all right, but then there's 2 or 3 other players aren't quite at that level, and that's where I feel like if Villa can sort of keep them at bay and maybe a couple of good saves from Martinez, which we haven't necessarily seen too often this season, but if we can stay in it, then that kind of period 60 minutes plus, because of the changes that we can make and the strength that we've got on the bench, that might be where the game is won for us.
Yeah, I do agree, actually. I think they're the kind of team that, because they're so gung-ho and at it, that it does fall off a little bit. And if you look at their recent results, I know they beat Arsenal, but I think at the moment, I think the 4 of us and a few of the guys from the comments would beat Arsenal, the way they've been lately in the league. So, that was obviously a great win. But before that, they drew against Man United at home. I'm about to say who can't beat Man United, but we can't. They drew away at Palace, which actually is a great result. They beat Fulham narrowly at home, and then they drew away at West Ham, and they lost at home to Ipswich. It's not sparkling form, a lot of draws, bad defeat. Obviously, they beat Arsenal as the one standout one. So, this is where our squad should really come into its own. If you can stem the tide of the pressure early on, keep it tight, which is why players like, I know we've talked about it, it's been said, but players like Amadou, what's his name, Onana, players like Tyrone Mings, players like Ian Matson, I think players like that with a bit of physicality, a bit of pace, a bit of energy, who can be up for the fight. I feel bad saying, about a player of the culture and caliber of Pau Torres, or the absolute, lengths of sort of career he's got in terms of Asensio. But I just don't want to see them starting this game. I think that right now it's time for a bit more old-fashioned, get stuck in, get high energy. I don't want to see anybody looking at someone else because, should I have got that? Should you have got that? As opposed to someone just clearing it out.
No more after you, Claudes.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's crazy to say this, but I think if we had a better backup keeper, maybe Martinez wouldn't have been at the ricks that he's had lately. He's obviously been off it a little bit, and I absolutely adore, like everybody does, Martinez. But there's been some times lately where the uncertainty, particularly around defence, has cost us. So I am really feeling confident that I think we're going to have a situation where we're going to get a victory here. I do. I think we need. I know we said we need to, but we have to make sure we don't make it hard for ourselves. And when they're attacking in full flow, if we're weak in any shape or form, if we're not strong with our, with the tackle, if we're not strong on set pieces, if we're not strong in, wide positions, and we go 1 or 2 goals down, it's a massive uphill task then.
Yeah. Villaman Cloudy agrees with you. Bournemouth will be tough, as I just hope we turn up. If we do, we've got a good chance. 100%, mate, 100%. And Vija says, give the lads a like. With orange wide eyes.
I was just about to say, can I interrupt and ask what that means? I've been trying to work it out.
It's an emoji. It's an emoji, but it doesn't.
I was
come up here.
I was like, that is. I didn't hear anything Kevin said for the last 10 seconds because I was
wondering what the fish orange wide eyes were.
It was like an acronym. I was like, foul. Sorry, I'm easily distracted. That's my bad.
Kevin, I'll come to you, Josh, and I will get Martin's got his predicted lineup up, which he tends to get a bit of stick for. Alan McAnally's commented as well on his predicted lineups before as well, but we'll get that in a minute. But Kevin says, without Tielemans, we need to go for width. Hence, Ramsey and Marlon on the wings with Rodgers behind Watkins. What are your thoughts on that, Josh? Do you tend to agree with that?
So I don't want to see John McGinn out wide. I don't want to see John McGinn in a square peg round hole situation. I want to see Rodgers play, as I said, behind Watkins. I think basically I see it as the team picks itself. It's always a flip of a coin at left back, to be honest. Whoever he prefers at left back, that's the one position. I think, a lot of us Villa fans, I think, would like to see probably now McGinn in the double pivot of Kamara and Villa have two out-and-out wingers, whether it's Mal. Do you know what? Even if it's Leon Bailey out wide right, I'm not crying about it. I'm okay with it. And we have Jacob Ramsey on the other side. Give me two out-and-out wingers. What will probably frustrate me is if we see Onana in the double pivot with McGinn shoehorned on one flank and Morgan Rogers shoehorned on the other with Asensio in the 10. That would really disappoint me. That to me is something I completely want to avoid. And I think that, ultimately, it's a massive. I think this team selection, every week we say, I think there's no room for error here for me in the team selection. There's no, with 60 minutes on the clock, we need to drastically change it. I don't think Donyell Malen plays. I don't think he starts. I don't think Unai will throw him in the mix at the start. Again, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I don't think he does that. I think the biggest conundrum always for me right now is Rodgers and Asensio, and where does John McGinn play? They're always the two questions I ask. I think I would like to say that I don't ever, apart from Wembley being neutral, he doesn't tend to go over Asensio, does he? In their away games, he seems to fancy Asensio more at home. So going back to Kevin, give me two out-and-out wingers. Give me Rodgers in the 10, Watkins, and then I don't care who's in the double pivot alongside Kamara, to be honest, because that attack for me is good enough to win us the game. That's how I feel.
Few comments coming in. We've got loads, actually. Kevin said, no McGinn. He's on the bench. Michael says, play Garcia and Cash. Kevin says, Onana and Kamara in the pivot. Adamski says, can Ramsey play as an out-and-out 10? I mean, he can, but he generally operates on that left-hand side, doesn't he? Adam says, can see Ramsey on the left and McGinn right, and he'd hate that. Sai says, centre-back Mings versus Evan Nielsen. Duncan said Rodgers is a 10, needs to be in the middle, driving the attack. And James says, play Marlon, the boy's clinical. Maybe you can put in some of Watkins' miss kicks. And Dunk says Asensio is a super sub for me. I mean, look, let's have a look at Martin's lineup, and Kevin, Sam, you can comment in and see what you thought, and Josh, have a look and see if it's comparable to what you've said. So he's gone for Martinez, Cash, Concert, Torres. Is that a black mark against Martin there? Ian Matson left back, Kamara, Onana, and McGinn. Marlon, Watkins, Rodgers. So no Ramsey and no Mings. What are your thoughts, boys?
Sorry, mate. Go on, now I'll go. I don't like that team at all. I don't like anything about it. I don't like the formation. Is this what he thinks it's going to be, or what he wants it to be? That's important for us.
It's Martin's team.
It's what he wants it to be.
Yes.
Poor Martin. He's not done himself any favors here. Mostly because that's not the formation we play. I don't think personnel is too off. I expect to see.
To be fair to Martin, I think it's just the way that Mark puts it out on the graphic.
Okay.
So, let's be fair.
I actually think Torres will play. I don't think he should, but I think he will, which is why I asked, is it what he thinks is going to happen or what he wants to happen? I don't understand what happened. We were sensational with Tyrone Mings at the back, and he's just not getting a game. And I don't know if I've missed anything or if it's been communicated why. But that for me is just crazy. He was so good defensively with Tyrone Mings at the back, and even Ezri Konsa looked better. And he made Emi Martinez look like the Emi Martinez of last season for a little bit. I think for me, Jacob Ramsey's got to play in some respect. I think Rodgers will play on the wing. I don't think Marlon will play on the wing. I think he'll probably play like McGinn there and Asensio in the middle. which is not what I want to happen, but it's what I think will happen. But I think it's really important in Tielemans' absence to have Jacob Ramsey in the middle, like not out wide, because we've spoken about this for years, Rich. He's a running back. He gets you yards. He carries the ball. He moves you forward, and Tielemans does that with his passing. But in the absence of Tielemans' quick passing to get us up the field, you need another route to get up the pitch. So, I mean, it's Unai Emery is a stubborn guy, and I love him, and he's got tenure with me. If he wants to play, John McGinn right wing, and he wants to play Asensio at a 10, and it doesn't work every single time for 5 games, then I'm never going to question him, because he's built up that credit with me that he knows what he's doing. But I think he'll probably just go with the same old, right? I think he'll go with his tried and tested. Apparently, he loves Pau Torres, and he loves Kamara, so I can't imagine him dropping them. But my rogue one is I don't think Morgan Rogers should start. I think he's played too much football. I think his legs are gone for about 5, 6, 7 games, if I'm being honest. Like every time he touches the ball recently, he's given it away. I think maybe he just needs to take a seat for a game or two and just I know it's not the time, and he is sensational. I've been championing him since last year, but I don't know. Is it just me who feels like he needs a bit of a break and he's not as effective as he was like for the first 3 quarters of the season?
We're down to 1 game a week, though. I think that's the difference now. So for me, Rodgers' last game was last Saturday. He's for me, you've got to get your best players on the pitch with 3 games to go.
Is he that Morgan Rogers? Is he that Morgan Rogers who has been our best player, one of our best players all season? Like over the last 4 or 5 games, he's not the same. He's not the same bloke.
He's definitely not. But I think part of that is the position.
That's a cop out. That's a cop out. He's playing in the middle. He's playing everywhere, and he's just whenever he gets the ball, it doesn't matter what he's doing.
Part of it's the position. Part of it's his decision making. A lot of it's his decision making, and some of it is. I think some of it is teams are, used to. This is what happens. You burst on the scene. You kind of become a bit of a surprise package. You're then full of confidence because everything's going right for you. And then you get through a little dip. Teams kind of find out, right, do this to him. This is how he doesn't like to react. Step on his first touch. His first touch is a little bit loose. And then they're on him. So he's got to find a different way to play. He's got that. That's the sign of what makes it.
I disagree with that. I think Morgan Rogers is an enigma. I think he's almost impossible to stop when he's on his game. Like he's one of them players you can know exactly what he's going to do, but stopping him is a different thing. I think you've identified it like really well. His first touch is off. Well, is his first touch always been off, or has he always turned with his first touch? And over the last 5, 6 games where he's just had a season of being used.
But you used to have a go at me because I used to get frustrated with him before. Even now, I was like, there's times where his touch is bad, there's times where his decision making is bad, and it's down to the fact he's a younger player and he's coming through and he's trying to gain his experience. But there's loads of rough edges to his game. But like you said, there's times where you just cannot stop him because you know what he's going to do, and he almost like Jonah Lomu in rugby just runs through people because he's so powerful, he's so big, and you just cannot stop him. But yeah, I guess it's just a little bit catching up with him, but it's still so difficult to not play him because even at times against Fulham, like he played that brilliant pass through to Watkins. He did a couple of other things that were great, and you just think those are kind of match-winning moments that can seal the game. Kev, what are your thoughts on that team? I'll bring it back up again, and I guess trying to second guess Unai Emery is impossible at the best of times. But is there anything that you would do?
Well, I've done this before when we've done these team predictions. I've thought, what would Unai go for versus what I would go for? And I listen, like Unai can do what he wants. I still think he's, what he's done to this team in the last couple of years. He's right more often, isn't he, than when he's wrong. I am very, very mindful that whatever we might think, he's probably going to go back to his tried and tested Torres, Kamara. Not that I don't think Kamara should play, by the way, but you get my point. I actually do agree with what Sam said. I think the way Rodgers has been lately, if he's fit enough, according to all of the stats that they've got, and if he's fit enough in terms of they think the fatigue levels are not not as bad as it seems to be. And if he's showing all the signs that he's match fit, then he starts me every game. But he has to start centrally. And I think if he doesn't start centrally, I wouldn't have him in the team, because I actually think him playing wide, I think playing everywhere, I think he's tiring him out. If you think about it, when he goes on a run from like the right back position all the way down the pitch, does that 2 or 3 times, whilst also wrestling with big players off him. I mean, for anybody that plays football at any level, I'm playing football against a mixed group of people, once a week right now. And if I have a little tussle with someone, it tires me out. And like you do that 6 or 7 times, like he does sometimes in a half, it's going to take it out of you. So if he's ready to go, he's in the team for me in the middle of the pitch. I think he's that special that he needs to start. If he's not, then I hear what Sam's saying, and I do think from the eye test, you can show me all the stats that you want from the eye test. Yeah, you know what? His decision making's been bad, his touch has been bad, but I just don't think he looks like his energy levels are where they were. And that is why I think he's not been as effective as he should have been. I would love to see Marlon start. I don't think he will. I definitely wouldn't have Torres, so I disagree with that one. And I agree with Josh, actually. I would prefer McGinn's tenacity alongside Kamara in that double pivot, but I'd also be quite happy if Onana played as well, because I think he's been really good lately. And Ramsey, I think Ramsey has to be in the team as well. Yeah.
Instead of McGinn? So let's just run this through. So you would go Martinez, Cash, Konsa, Mings. Do you think he goes Digne against Bournemouth?
I think
from home.
I think it's a toss-up, mate. I really think it's a toss-up. Man, Matson's played more lately, so I would go Matson, and then I'd go. Do you know what? I'd probably go. If I had to say it now, I'd go Kamara, McGinn, Rodgers in front. I'd go Marlon right, Ramsey left, and Watkins up top. So
no, Onana wouldn't start for you.
He wouldn't start, but if he did tweak the team, what I wouldn't want to see is McGinn goes right wing for Onana to come in. Marlon doesn't start. That would be not a preferred option for me. I want the pace of Marlon.
I don't think Marlon, because Marlon has come on with half an hour to go up front, so I don't think he starts both Watkins and Marlon, because then it takes away that substitution that he can make.
I agree. I think that is the problem. I think that Marlon is being used as sort of like that second number 9. So if you start him and Ollie gets injured, or if they start flagging, you need a big push at the end. Who do you whack up front?
Yeah,
But at the same time, I'd quite like to see Rodgers quite close, like play a lot closer to Watkins, like centrally. But
yeah,
you remember, who was it against Celtic when he just kept following him into the box, and every single time Ollie Watkins mishit it, he sort of got onto the follow up, and did he bag a hat trick in that game? Morgan Rodgers, I think.
Yeah, he did.
Having someone a bit closer. Or do you know who we should play up top? Probably Duran, if I'm being honest. He's
stinking the place out at the minute over there, though. Apparently,
is he?
Yeah. He's absolutely.
Oh, good thing, babe. No one's watching.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a left field choice, but on the right, Leon Bailey. I mean, you mentioned that, Josh, but could you see that?
Yeah, I mean, defensively, he quite likes Bailey. He likes Bailey's attributes defensively. Again, I wouldn't be upset seeing. Basically, I won't be upset who I see out there as long as it's not McGinn or Rodgers, and that's that for me is probably where I put Bailey and the Don Marlon is still. Just quickly on 2 things really came to mind. Donyell Marlon, this is the thing where I get a little bit frustrated with Villa, I guess, and I want to see where it goes next season. Is you talk about Onana as a £50 million signing, and we're still having a debate now about whether this guy should be starting in a double pivot or should be starting in a Villa team when one of our main men, Yuri Tielemans, has created a space for him. So we're talking basically about your third choice centre mid, right? How is there a conversation where a £50 million man, and I know Onana doesn't choose the price tag, is being debated about that I know, and again, people say, well, it could be for next year or whatever. But right now, if we've got a £50 million man, we should be going. This is his position. What are we talking about? Like, of course, it's an honor in there.
$50 million crowd. What
fist pumper. Yeah, it's about he's about 2 million for every fist pump he does so far. That's where we're at. But you got that, and then if you want to link it again to Donyell Marlon, it's like I know Unai Emery's talked about his versatility and flexibility. But we're still saying, oh, we could, what about if, I know some people said, what about if we chuck Marlon as a 9 or Marlon off the right? I really want to see like Donnell Marlon sort of throw down that position and say, this is mine. Again, you've signed me, Aston Villa, and this is the position I want to play, and then this is the position I want to be in a starting 11. So though our squad depth is looking really good, I sometimes go, what I want to see us now, and it's a bit off tangent, but sign me players who, when you have an injury, they're coming in and 100% are starting, not if, buts, and maybes. But yeah, I think as you've all sort of alluded to, Unai Emery, he keeps us guessing right until that team sheet comes out. And you can't be a Villa fan without moaning at the team sheet. So, of course, there's going to be something which is going to throw us. What makes me laugh is no one even talks about Axel Disasi anymore, do they? Which is, the fact is that man is absolutely destroyed his name at Villa.
What was it against Fulham?
Exactly.
Well, I don't think that's his fault. I think it's when he got sent for that hot dog by.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But that's what I mean. He's been destroyed. He's been destroyed now, and that's quite interesting. Again, it's another piece of recruitment I'm talking about.
Can you, Josh? This is the problem. You can't play. And this is what baffles. Can we talk about Garcia for a second? What he came in, he played 5 games. He looked absolutely.
Luke said the same thing. Where's Garcia?
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
He's Kostan Djokovic 2.0. We've signed someone on potential, not really trusted it, and gone, and again, he'll be shipped up. But what you said on Disasi, because you said about Morgan Rogers not being on the right is an excuse. But look at Axel Disasi. He's been throwing the gauntlet at right back, clearly a centre back, and he's been absolutely stunk out that actually Unai's gone, you're not even in my squad anymore. Like, you've been playing the wrong role. And I just think that Morgan Rogers probably can't wait to see the back of Marco Asensio. In a selfish way, he's probably going, right, cheers for your little cameo, but piss off now. This is my place. This is my turf. Cue Rogers to leave us now, and someone now said that. But do you know what I mean? That's how I feel about, people like Rogers, and give him that role, because he will absolutely be the reason why we get Champions League in the future or not.
Yeah. Just quickly, before we get to predictions, we've talked about this, Kev, about kind of Unai almost feeling like the substitutes that he can make on 60, 65, whether it's or 70, 75 minutes. We've seen these triple substitutions, quadruple substitutions to go and win the game or to go and settle the game for us are almost more important than who starts. And whoever it is on the bench, whether it's Marlon coming on, Bailey coming on, Asensio, Barkley, Ramsey, they're for Unai, they're incredibly important moves, aren't they, for him?
Yeah, we've had really effective moments, haven't we, off the bench? We've talked about it from the very first game of the season when you and I were at that West Ham away match, and we saw the 3 subs combining, wasn't it? Maatsen, Duran, and Ramsey. Obviously, for Duran to score the winner. So, we've seen it from the start of the season. We've seen it throughout. We've seen game changes galore, and it's a real strength of ours now. Absolutely. So maybe that's why, as we said, he might keep a Marlon on the bench. He might, as much as we want to see a Ramsey start, but, you're bringing on a Ramsey and a Marlon and an Onana to shore it up, and a Barkley with his sort of poison experience. If he can get back to a little bit of that earlier form he had, he's not been quite at it lately, as he's been off it a bit as well. But, as he was when he was in the team early in the season, you've got some real quality there. If Maatsen doesn't start and he comes on, you can really hurt teams. I mean, I'm hoping that the game's a bit more comfortable than having to sort of like try and chase it for the last 25 minutes. But we know what it's going to be like Bournemouth away, Vitality Stadium. It's going to be tough. So, yeah, it's always going to be these kind of conversations, isn't it? Everyone's going to have their views. I mean, I think there's been some very, very good points made tonight. I mean, I almost look at it in terms from a form perspective and think, would we be any worse off if Marlon started down the middle? And you play Bailey. Not that I don't think Watkins is he's earned his right to play, and obviously he was brilliant, wasn't he, in a couple of games recently. But I think that's another option that doesn't get talked about enough. And I think Marlon has looked a real threat every time he has played. So I think that's something that can't be sniffed at. Just a shame, I really think for this game, Rashford, because Rashford's form you know, particularly with him not playing that much football early in the season and really getting match fit, I think he would have got even better over the last few games. So that is, you know, whereas Tielemans probably running out of steam, Rashford's minutes actually in his legs this season, I think he would have been even more effective. But que sera, sera.
Yeah, precisely. He's got lots of options, and we will see what he does. What he does on Saturday. So before we get into the predictions, please do hit those likes, everyone, and help us continue on the road to 6K. If you do want to become a member as well, or if you do want to drop us a super chat or anything like that, click the $sign or click the join button as well, and you can become an official Villa Park Pod follower for just $1.99 a month. And Kevin is backing Ollie to score on Saturday. So predictions already coming in. We've got a new little fancy socials graphic that we're going to put out there as well on social media to see if people agree with us. So let's get our match predictions and our little faces up. Josh, you can see who you agree with in terms of our score predictions, and everyone in the chat, get your predictions in as well. So I've not gone Bournemouth 1, Aston Villa 0. Someone's got that wrong.
It's your graphic.
Hang on a minute. I've gone for Aston Villa 1, Bournemouth 0. But anyway.
Rich, when this goes out live, just make sure. Oh, crikey.
Yeah. George went for a Villa defeat. Bournemouth 2, Aston Villa 1. Sam has gone for an absolute humdinger of a game. Bournemouth 4, Aston Villa 3. Kev, you've gone for an Aston Villa 2-0 win, and Martin has gone for an Aston Villa 2-1 win. So, yeah, who's going to be? What are you thinking in terms of predictions there, Josh?
I think Villa will do something that'll probably annoy a lot of us, which could potentially draw on the weekend. It doesn't cut out the possibility of getting Champions League, but what it means is we're left waiting again and worrying and hoping and out of our hands. You know, everyone keeps saying we've got to win the next 3, but I don't want our season to end like that. I think that we have to know that we have to beat Bournemouth, and I can't accept anything less than a Villa win. And though that is what every fan wants, I think we are going to out tactically class Bournemouth. I think we're going to have the right game plan. I think we're going to approach it properly. We've had a week to prepare. So again, I keep stressing this because it's been a while since we've had such a long time, and Una on the training field for me is exactly what I want. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 Villa win away from home. Don't think it's going to be pretty either. I think it's going to be a real horrible 2-1, but we'll take the 2-1 and we'll run with it. And
who's getting the goals for Villa?
So Ollie's going to save his goal for Tottenham at home, do it at Villa Park. So I'm backing my man Morgan Rogers to do it. I just love Morgan. I think Morgan. And why not something like it'd be interesting in someone like Matty Cash. Do you know what I mean? Matty Cash getting a winner and giving it a bit of a do you know what I mean to anyone like that. But no, yeah, I think Rogers definitely get on the score sheet, and Watkins not to score, but to save that for Tottenham.
Okay. Look, just to prove it, I went for 1-0 Aston Villa on the other graphic. So just to prove it. But Sam, I'm keen to hear about your absolute heartbreaking game. Bournemouth 4, Aston Villa 3. What's brought this on, and how is this sequence going to unfold?
All right, get your betting apps at the ready, boys. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. No, I'm joking. Please don't bet based on what I say. I mean, you've got to start on the premise that they're going to score almost immediately with their first shot, right? That's a given this season. They'll score with their first shot on target.
22 times apparently this season that's happened.
Yeah, that tracks. So I think it's going to be one of them where I think they're going to play quite open. I think they're going to be quite open. They're going to come and attack us, and that's the kind of team that Bournemouth are. They, like you say, the red arrows when they go on the counter attack, and I can definitely see them getting goals. But our attack as well, our front three, front five are also pretty incredible when they want to be. And I think it depends on which version of Ollie Watkins turns up, what version of Morgan Rogers and Asensio, and do you know what I mean? It could be a 1-0 win, it could be a 4-3 game. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them. But I believe we both have so much to play for. I can't see anyone, holding back. I'd love it if actually both teams just went there and had a sort of a scrap, like a proper, slug it out type of game, because I think we've come out quite well in that. But I think we've had a long old season. We've played significantly more games than Bournemouth. I think Yuri Tielemans calms us down in the middle of the park. I do think that we'll get goals, but I think just off the back of like the recent, especially away, if this was at home, it would be such a different story. But away, we're a little bit susceptible, and I do see goals in this game. Watch it be a 0-0 draw, but I do see goals in this game, and I think that like Bournemouth are just in a better moment right now, to quote Unai Emery about how good moments are. So, it hopefully will be a fun game. Hopefully, well, I'm going to do what you did. If we win 4-3, I'm going to say no. I said it was 4-3 and change the graphic. But it's I've in terms of who's going to score, I see Onana getting one. Don't ask me why. I think Onana will get one. I agree with Josh. I think Rogers will get one. I think Watkins will get one. I think this is the weekend where, because he's been joint with Gabby for a few games now, hasn't he? So yeah. I think he's
since
due
Newcastle.
one.
Since Newcastle, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's due one, and then I reckon a rogue goal scorer, maybe a Ian Matson or a Pau Torres or someone from the back line. I think it's going to be spread over 4 people, and I really, really hope. I know that I just said 4 Villa scorers and I predicted 4-3 to Bournemouth, but leave it out.
You hope it's the other way around.
I genuinely believe it's going to be 4-3 to Villa in my head, but I had to like in my heart, a realism. I went with Bournemouth. Hopefully we'll win. I'd love to play Champions League next year, and I think just sort of like my final point is I have had honestly the best season watching Villa this year. Like being part of that Champions League, being part of that journey, like some of the European games that I've been to, and the atmosphere, and just that feeling of being involved and being at the top of English football, being at the head table, and people talking about what a good team Villa are. Some of the signings we made in January, the likes of Asensio and Rashford, and I think if we don't get Champions League, that's the biggest loss for me. Is in terms of the names that we can attract. It's just been honestly one of the best years of supporting Villa I've ever had. Win something or not, it's been sensational. So I would do anything to get into the Champions League again next year, and I really hope the boys go and smash it in, and the likes of Chelsea and Forest and City, and I don't care who drops out as long as we're in. So yeah, please go smash it against Bournemouth. Ollie Watkins 4 goals. I'll get the Ollie Watkins shirt. I don't care. Whatever it is, I'm there. Just want to win the game.
Before I come to you, Kev, Duncan says 3-1 Villa win. I think we've got quite a few Villa wins in there. Kev says just win at all costs. Lewis says 2-4. So, obviously another humdinger of a game. Adam says 1-1. Adamski says 2-0 Villa. Paul says Villa 3-2 up the Villa. PJJ 3-1 Villa. Luke 3-2 Villa. If we bang up for it, I can see Cliver and Hyson scoring for them. Michael saying 3-2 Villa win. A lot of people predicting a lot of goals. 2-1 Villa, says Luca. Dicky says 3-0 Villa. So you can see another Brighton performance. Second half masterclass from Watkins. 4-3. What you smoking, says Villa man Cloudy.
Just really tired, mate. I haven't slept in a while. I'm so sorry.
So, Kev, just a standard 2-0 win for you.
Well, I've got to be honest with you. When I see my Great Danes, Paul, by the way, in case you start thinking weird things are going on. Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking, actually, to be giving us a clean sheet, because we haven't had many of them this season, particularly away from home. But I just got a feeling, and I'm doing pretty well in Deontay's league. So, I got the 1-0 Fulham right. So I thought, you know what, go with how you feel. I just think that the point you said earlier, Rich, like maybe Bournemouth fading a little bit, and then I had a quick look at the results and backed it up with some of the recent results. But it's a funny old game, and it's a funny old game because they could go and score 4 against us, couldn't they? They've been that good. I mean, I echo what Sam said really about the season and how great it's been. But I do still think there's going to be a few more twists and turns. And as we know, I mean, this weekend, Newcastle have got to play Chelsea, then Chelsea playing Forest. There's some tough games that all these teams have got ahead of them, and I think there'll be points dropped. So it would be really, really good for us if we could find a team that we're playing against, we can get some goals against. But I can't see us scoring, a cricket score against any of these 3 teams coming up, which is a shame. I mean, I would still think it'd be amazing if we went into we would say we were level on points going into the last game of the season with a couple of the teams, and we knew that we had to beat Man United by 7 at Old Trafford. Could you imagine the scenes? Could you imagine for the ages that would be? Villa like PSG in the second half, just bombing forward, hitting shots. Maatson getting one save, just the craziness of that game against Paris. It'd be amazing, but just let's get past Bournemouth and Spurs.
Exactly. Win at all costs. I think we've had a few in the chat there. Flange 0027 said any kind of win. Exactly. Doesn't matter how we do it, just get the win. Just a quick one before we finish. Massive congratulations to the Villa youth team yet again. They won the FA Youth Cup the other night. We spoke about that, and they've sealed the FA Under-18 South, I think, Premier League, which is brilliant. And they're going to go on and face Manchester City again to see who the supreme champions are. So let's make sure that they do that. And there's been a few chats about sort of transfers and stuff. I've done a bit of a transfer roundup covering Harvey Barnes, Jacob Ramsey, 1 or 2 other players. So do catch that. And we'll talk about transfers on the fans forum next week. So make sure you check that out. Josh, thank you so much for joining us, mate. Just I know most people, I'm sure everyone knows of your channel, but just shout it out, mate, and your watch alongs and everything like that. Just where can people find you?
I appreciate you coming. Can't even speak anymore. Appreciate you having me on tonight. Appreciate that. Aston Villa from the stands. As I said, it's great to see so many names go and support a lot of the Villa content creators, and I think that's the beauty of it, is that the people in the chats are the one who sort of go and show their support all the time, don't they, and coming out and supporting us, and that's brilliant to see. I think that it doesn't matter what different personalities, what different content, you're all out there. So big up to everyone, and really enjoyed it with Kev and Sam as well. It's been awesome, nice chilled evening.
Brilliant.
Great to have you, mate. Great to have you, Josh.
Brilliant stuff. And Kev, Sam, great to have you back on. Of course, we will have plenty more content coming over the next few days. I'm sure there'll be more transfer talk, rumour shows, so I might be doing one of them tomorrow. Obviously, Bournemouth match reaction, hopefully a successful one. And then I'm sure we'll do a Lions Raw full reaction show as well. Fans Forum next week and Talking Tactics as well. So hit that like button on your way out if you haven't already. Please do subscribe to the channel. Help us on the road to 6K. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.